Okay. Hello, everybody. Can you all hear me well?
Yes, Bowie, we can hear you.
Okay,
Yes,
good. So I'm about to start now. So given the time, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to MaGESpire and CFTE present EdTech, Inspiring the Next Generation. I am Bowie and I'm the host today. I have a disclaimer. Anything we discuss tonight should not be construed to any form of financial advice or solicitation to invest. And before making any investment decision, please ensure that you do your own research and your own due diligence. A quick introduction of myself. I'm a woman with many faces. I run MaGESpire, which is a fintech venture development and education group. One side, I am an angel investor. I'm also invested in a venture capital fund called Soqqle Ventures. And I also run a consultancy arm to help companies in terms of business development, market access, and connecting them to the right people. So, and before February this year, I used to conduct a lot of physical events in Hong Kong and Singapore. And thanks to COVID now, I shift all my events to virtual. And the beauty of this is I get to invite all the speakers and all the audience globally around the world. As long as you have internet access, you're welcome to join. So personally, I'm a mother of two sons, two lovely sons, age 5 and 8. And obviously, it is, education is very important to me as a parent. And this year, our life, basically has dramatically changed. We no longer are able to go out without a proper mask. And we have to eliminate all the social gatherings, handshake, hugs here and there. And all of us are forced to stay home. This is the worst part. And UNESCO, the UN's heritage body, reported that the COVID-19 pandemic caused schools in at least 194 countries to close at the start of April. At that time, had an impact on more than 90% of the students around the globe. And for many months, millions of students worldwide relies on online communication tools to continue school and university classes. And the experience has inspired many people around the world to reflect of the growing role technology that play in reforming education. The development of education technology, or EdTech, can provide innovative tools and media to help develop, communicate, and exchange knowledge in a more engaging, inclusive, and personalized way. And today I'm super excited to co-organize with CFTE to talk about the education technology, how it affects us, and how EdTech inspires the next generation. So CFTE is the full name is called the Center of Finance, Technology, and Entrepreneurship. It's an online education platform helping finance professionals upskill for the future of finance. CFTE has developed some of the largest programs online in the world, including the University of Leon Polytech about AI in finance, the largest program in fintech with Hong Kong University, and just recently launched 10 new courses around open banking and platform, future of payment, and fintech specialization so that professionals cannot not only understand the core of this transformation, but be ready to leverage them. And CFTE have the largest and most engaged community, over 70,000 alumni around the world. And CFTE is based in UK with offices in Singapore and Hong Kong. And myself, I am an alumni of the CFTE, and I've been taking many courses with them. And I'm also recently appointed as a chapter head representing CFTE in Hong Kong. And so today the agenda is very simple. We have two keynote on the education technology, and afterward we'll straight jump to a very exciting, insightful panel discussion. But without further ado, let me introduce my first guest speaker today, Tram Anh Nguyen, the co-founder of CFTE, to talk about CFTE, a global education platform mission-driven for the fintech industry. Let's welcome Tram.
Yes, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tram Anh Nguyen, and I'm the co-founder of CFTE. It's a real pleasure to be online with you. And first, I would like to thank Bowie for coordinating with CFTE this event. And I'd like to thank my team as well, but very glad to be here. I'd like to start by talking about the motto of CFTE today, which is the reskilling urgency. And with the help of Bowie to help me with the slides, please, next slides. Going a bit further, I titled my presentation, How to Prepare Hundreds of Millions to the Jobs of Tomorrow. Who are these hundreds of millions? They are the working professionals, the white collars, those who 20 years ago could have a predictable career path. To answer the how to prepare them, I will share what we've learned from upskilling tens of thousands of professionals in financial services at CFTE. Next slide. At CFTE, we were privileged to work with amazing organizations such as Hong Kong University, Ngee Polytechnic in Singapore, Abu Dhabi, Global Markets in the UAE, and the major financial institutions in Europe. My co-founder also co-designed the Oxford Fintech course in Europe and the first Fintech executive program at the Imperial College. Based on this experience, I can directly jump to the conclusion and tell you that preparing professionals to a new world of technology is very hard. And let me share with you why. First, let's go back and establish our starting point. And I will use the industry I am in, which is finance, but it's very similar in many others. So as you see on the slide, finance is clearly transforming. For you as a consumer, you might be daily users of Alipay here in Asia, or Mox, the new offering of Standard Chartered. If you were in Europe, perhaps Revolut, N26, or Marcus from Goldman Sachs. In America, Nubank, in Brazil, Chime in the US. These new offerings are so much better for us as consumers and put pressure on the traditional banks. How come we see so much change in finance? The availability of new technologies, such as mobile phones, but also cloud, APIs, artificial intelligence, is making it much cheaper to launch financial companies. This has led to a boom of fintech startups, but also tech companies in the space. And at the same time, regulators around the world, from the UK, from the Hong Kong, from Singapore, have encouraged innovation through specific regulations. And all of this, of course, very positive, because this improving access to finance for consumers and SMEs in developed, but also developing markets. Now, hundreds of millions can have not only a bank account, but also access to savings, insurance, loan. This transformation is happening, but this is not happening equally. And we are seeing huge differences between countries, between organizations and people. And this challenge of transformation, very challenging. For example, some startups with 10 people use artificial intelligence for microloans, whereas some financial institutions with 100,000 people still use manual process. So that leads to a serious problem, which is the knowledge gap is much widening. Next slide. So it's widening between organizations, for example, between a traditional bank and modern banks, between tech companies and banks, but most importantly, it's widening between people. So as this technological transformation is accelerating, some organizations are being left behind, and people are being left behind with skills and knowledge which are outdated. Next slide. So it's obvious to many now that lifelong learning is now an imperative, whether we call it upskilling, reskilling, continuous education, adult learning. For me, is the same. Is this tipping point where suddenly hundreds of millions are finding that their skills are no longer sufficient to give them job protection or career progression. So why we need to prepare them is clear, but how do we do it? Let me share with you. Next slide. So let me share with you, next slide. Let me share with you the 5 challenges to overcome if we want to make it happen. This is based on our experience at CFT, and let me give you a disclaimer. I'm not an academic. We are not professional educators. We are from the industry. I used to be on the trading floor in New York and in private banking in London. So our experience is based on trying to transform people like me who are in the industry, know little about technology, who are busy with our work and realize that our jobs are changing, but not really understand how. Next slide. So let me tell you the first challenge, and it seems obvious, but adults are not children. Why is it important? I think you need to move to the first slides, which is the adults. The adults are not children. Why is it important? For a period of 15 years, the only thing children do is to learn. They learn all the time. They learn from their professors, they learn through homework, they are being assessed on their learnings. This is their bubble. For us adults, work is our bubble. Our objective is not to acquire new knowledge, but to output something, whether it's a discussion with a client, detecting a credit card fraud, or making a presentation. And of course, we have more than our work bubble, unlike children. Children don't have a job, but they don't have a family to take care of. They don't have to go shopping or clean the house. So adults are not children. So we can't teach them in the same way as children. And that's a challenge because there are a lot of tools that work very well with children, for example, the Khan Academy, but don't work with adults. The second challenge is, and the next slides, it's imperative to learn. But the question is, what do you need to learn? For example, if I'm a relationship manager in a bank or work in a compliance team, the skills of my job today are very clear and my job description is very clear tomorrow. But what will my job be in the few years? Very hard to know. Just to take you an example, a decade ago, Goldman Sachs has 500 equity traders in market making, which is certain type of traders buying and selling for clients. Today, there are less than 10. From 500 to 10. I don't think that any of these 500 people would have thought that their jobs would be so quickly redundant. So although we could hint at some trends towards jobs, for example, there might be fewer bank branches and therefore bank tellers. This is far from easy. So for working professionals, a lot of them can't really say what they need to learn. That's the second challenge. Next slides. The third challenge is that although they might not know what they need to learn, they know there's a lot to learn. For example, so many of our participants came and said, I hear about fintech every day, but I don't know what it is. I don't know how to start. How it seems that challenger banks are taking our clients, but why are they so different? Or we have all these programs of RPA internally, but I don't really know how it will impact me and my job. In finance only, I can easily name 10 different subjects that would be important for almost anyone to learn to be future-proof, from artificial intelligence to open banking, but also soft skills like entrepreneurial mindset or being customer-centric. Next slides. The third challenge, there is a lot to learn. That conflicts squarely with the fourth challenge, which is that adult learners paradoxically have very little time and money to invest in their learning. For example, think of how much money and time you have spent in learning a new subject this year. And now compare it to the cost of, for example, a master in finance at LSE that costs £35,000 and takes 10 months full-time to complete. In the case of financial institutions, for example, I just give one example of Deutsche Bank, spends less than £1,000 per year per employee, which is one-day training. So next slide. Finally, our last challenge is that it's hard to identify who should be responsible for this upskilling. Is it the government, like for children? Is it the employer? Is it the industry body? Is it the individual? For adults, if you think of it, this responsibility is absolutely not clear. And there is no clear path for adult learning. And that's why many professionals struggle to self-learn. So the next slides. So to going back to these 5 challenges that I just mentioned, I do not claim to have the answer, of course, to all of them, nor to give an answer in 5 minutes. However, there are certain success factors which in our experience have proven important if we want to achieve the results of upskilling at scale. So the first one is to focus on the foundations and the essentials. Why? Because the world has changed so much and many people do not possess the foundations that helps them to go further, from the basics of core technologies to the actor of the industry. Secondly, integrating learning in their daily life is essential because, as we said, adults can't spend a lot of money and time to learn. And third, make a difference between knowledge and skills. Skills are, of course, essential, and the success of boot camps that help people become coders are, for example, a great example of it. On the other hand, many more people do not intend to totally change their jobs, but on the contrary, make their job future-proof, and adding extra knowledge is key. So to finish this presentation, next slide, let me share with you 4 ingredients that helps us be 10 times better in terms of impact. Perhaps let me ask the audience, what is the normal completion rate of an online course? Can you tell us what you think about what is the normal completion rate for an online course? 10%, Daniel is saying, okay. 10%, okay. So it's usually less than 10%, Daniel. When we started CFT, we said that there is no way we will do something where only 1 out of 10 will benefit truly. And today we are at 90% plus completion rate. So to do that, we found that there are 4 important ingredients, if I may share. First, alignment, working with governments, the organizations, the individuals, and making sure that each are involved maximizes the impact. Secondly, it's for the industry by the industry. As we said, adults are not children and they need knowledge and information they can relate to from their peers. At the same time, if we showed them case studies, that wouldn't help them much. So academic rigor is also important. Thirdly, learning is a social activity. We want to make it a momentum. That's why we work with organizations. We have cohorts, learning together, graduation ceremony, webinar. And finally, be very focused on the outcomes, but also the impediments. And as it sounds crazy, we spend so much time making sure not to be blocked by firewalls for banks, or rethinking outcomes until it's very making sense. So if there was only one message that I wanted to leave you with today, it's that today we are past the why we need prepare 200 millions to the new world of work. Today, we need to collectively work on the how to make it happen, and make it work is one of the most critical challenges of our time. So that ends my presentation. And of course, you know, if you have any question, I'm very happy to discuss with you later. Thanks a lot for listening to me.
Thank you, Tram. Thank you very much for your insightful sharing. And we do have something to share here. This is the QR code that can link to the platform, and with the promo code of EdTech 10, you can entitle to exclusive 10% discount of all the CFTE courses. So I highly recommend you to take. I think there's so many courses right now, but I think I was pretty much the early student joining the platform, and there's so much to learn. I'm so happy, and the plus compared to the, I'm not going to name other schools' name, but compared to other platform, I think the CFTE has a very, very reasonable pricing and is very affordable for majority of the people. So I highly recommend you to go try it. And so thank you, Tram. And next, I am going to introduce my next guest speaker, which is Daniel Shen, the founder of Soqqle EDU. Soqqle is also one of my portfolio company, just FYI, and he's going to talk about the creating online learning engagement through student-generated video. So Daniel, all yours.
Hi, I'm Daniel. Let me start my timer. I'm Daniel, I'm the founder of Soqqle, and I'll be sharing with you the coolest new educational technology in town today, and it's focusing on social learning. just in a nutshell, the app works by being like a TikTok, but for education. But if you don't know what TikTok is, you can think of Instagram. It's a bit like Instagram as well. So I'll go to the next slide, we talked about video. When you hear about social, you think about video. And if you think about it, if you are a teacher, do you use video today? And you might be thinking, yes, you do. But you might be doing more of presenting videos to the students as a form of a didactic form of teaching. But how about students generating videos out of their own accord in a self-directed, self-regulated way? And that's something that's not really being done today, and no one really knows how to do it. But how does social networks do it today? But let's talk about why this is even required in the first place. I'll mention that in the next slide, on the next slide. So online learning engagement, which is even more needed now during the COVID period, where you don't really know whether the students are really listening. And even if they are listening, what do you do after you have delivered your courses on Zoom, for example? So it's very, very hard for you as a teacher to maintain that connection and engagement with the students, especially online. Even offline, it's quite a challenge. Online is even worse. So how can we leverage online learning environments how can we blend it with social learning activities to make it work? And there's a whole big part about blending the pedagogy and the technology together. And I'll talk about that on a bit more on the next slide, which are some of the problems that's being faced. So social applications, if you have tried it in a classroom like Facebook, students don't really like it because there's just no utility that they can see in it, like YouTube, for example. And if you try and use an LMS, learning management system, to try and engage with your students, they just don't see it as engaging as, for example, TikTok. And if you're using collaborative apps like Microsoft Teams, it's just, if you try and do a video-based assessment that has like 100 videos, it's impossible for you as a teacher to manage it. And all of these tools don't really give you any analytics. So I'll mention a bit about how our application works on the next slide, which talks about the mobile application and the social learning aspects. We combine them together. And these are two elements that we see in social networks today. So in theory, when we signed up for Facebook, we were hoping to learn from our friends about their interests, their passions, their goals. But we end up learning about what they like to eat and where have they been going. But what we want to do here is to apply the same concepts in schools and blend in rubrics, instructions, and put it more into a utility of learning. So Soqqle is that application, and I'll show you how it works on the next few slides, which goes through 4 steps. So step 1 on the next slide touches on the setup. So the entire app is private. So the teacher will click on creating a tag on the app, and that will create a private tag or a password that is given to the students. The next slide will cover on how that's being used. So the teacher will introduce the tag to the students and play an introduction video, and the students will download the application and they'll key in the tag to unlock the content. So nobody else will be able to see the content except those students. Next will be how the teacher can give instructions. So these are real examples. On the right side, you have a student video. On the left, you have comments. Like for example, TikTok has exactly the same style. And we use these comments as a way of giving personalized feedback. The teachers use it to give personalized feedback to the students. Next. Then after which, once the feedback is given to the students can track those comments. We also have the ability for teachers to give stars to the students as a form of feedback. We have some teachers who use it as a form of rubrics. And on the right side, you can see over here, the student can view the comments from the teacher one after the other, which is quite a hard problem today for some teachers who have a problem trying to track the comments given to the students on a regular basis. We also provide a learning analytics dashboard on the left side, as you can see everything in one place, and we also provide an easy way for the teacher to give notifications to the students. Next. So my next few slides will touch on how we're using it. And I'll pass this one as well. Can I go to the next slide, which touches the first one activity will be in Indonesia. So we have an English lecturer in Indonesia who uses it to get students to create content. She was using YouTube before that, but it just wasn't really as engaging. You can't give stars, you can't give comments in an easy way, and the students don't really see why they're using a public style application for learning. The next slide touches on China. Kathy is an English teacher in Chongqing, China, and she uses it to get students to produce videos as well. Before that, she has 300 students and she was managing the videos manually offline. It was really, really painful. It took her hours, but now she can give feedback and stars to the students as well. My next 2 slides covers Hong Kong, which will be in HKUST in Hong Kong. We have a senior lecturer in language as well, who uses it to get students to create videos, and she uses it to give feedback to the students. Next slide. In Jessie from the same school, same department, uses it as well. These are two slides that touches on that single use case of giving feedback to the students in a personalized way. My next two slides after this covers geography. This is in Hong Kong as well, Lingnan. So she uses this as a way of getting peer-to-peer. So we have some students here who go, I don't know whether I've done it right. And she's gonna get the students to give peer-to-peer feedback on whether they think it's right, and they can share ideas with each other. The next slide touches on the similar use case in Indonesia. So he's teaching hydrology. So he asked the students to take pictures of water living around them. So we have some students who lived in the rural parts of Indonesia. So now they can take videos of wherever they're living as a way of demonstrating that, that knowledge. Next, and my last slide will be something that will be covered by Dr. Uma from the Ministry of Higher Education in a bit after I've done this one. So this slide is in Singapore. It's a chemical process engineering module in Singapore. And you can see on the left video, it's actually a TikTok. He recorded it on TikTok, but uploaded it on the app. And he uses it as a way of trying to encourage students to post videos of their laboratory experiments that is done in school. The main problem there is today is impossible for teachers to see what students are doing on an individual basis in a lab, right? Because you can't be in every single student, in front of every single student at the right point, at the right time, at the right place. So here the students can record videos, and I've heard of the students using it as a way of memory retention, of a recall of whatever they have done before. So my next slide will be covered by Dr. Uma, who recommended this to her friends in Malaysia. So Dr. Uma, would you like to share about how you think of this?
Okay, thank you, Daniel. Hi, everyone. So couple of months ago, Daniel approached me, and then so a few of my friends, they wanted to try out Soqqle app. So we found that many lecturers, the English lecturers, were really interested to use the Soqqle app, where video is primarily used in their teaching and learning, and they're also teaching the school leavers who are around 18 years of age. So here, Wan Shukriya is a lecturer at College Community Selayang, and she teaches workplace English, and she's been using Soqqle for a few weeks now for real-world interviews, because she's preparing students to actually use English for interviews. And at the end of the course, they should be able to write, resumes and all. So I think she's very happy with the feedback from her students, because it's appealing to them, because these students are using Instagram and TikTok on a daily basis. So it's like second nature to them. So probably before this, students actually thought that, these kind of apps are just, for hedonistic purposes, for entertainment purposes. But now they get to, experience that, their smartphones can be actually used for education. So I think that's why it was appealing to them. So EdTech is, it's not really, like, technologies are going to change, but I think most importantly is whether, the learning outcomes are achieved at the end of the day, and whether we can actually, teach students the way they want to be taught, or something that they are comfortable with. Yeah. All right.
Thank you, Dr. Uma. Just to let everybody know, so our next step with Dr. Uma in Malaysia, Ministry of Higher Education, we are trying to explore how we can even measure the online engagement. So we're actually looking at using theories from neuroscience to measure the engagement through the signals in their brains, to gauge whether students are more receptive to content from peers as opposed to content from influencers from YouTube, for example. So that's a project that we're working on, and I also coordinate research across different universities in Asia. So if any one of you here are interested in research, in international collaborations, I would love to chat. So a summary of overall whatever I've just mentioned: we solve online engagement. We do it through student-generated videos, comments, through peer-to-peer engagement. We are video first, we're assessment-based, and we work with schools, teachers directly to try and improve the efficiency and how technology can be used to maximize their physical restrictions. So our teachers are in Singapore, Indonesia, Hong Kong, Malaysia now as well, and because we are faster, more efficient, easier to use than any other app. In our last survey that we have done in Indonesia, 4 out of 5 students actually say that they feel and they can see the benefits of using the app. Our next step is to try and measure the learning gains, and we're trying to do that through, again, that international research that I mentioned. So I'm done with my slides, and I would like to thank Bowie for bringing me here. And this is my email if you guys would like to reach out to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate it. And I will, in terms of the time constraint, I will jump to our next panel right away, because I do reserve for some, if you have any questions, feel free to put into the chat box, but I will reserve it until the end for the Q&A session. So I am very excited because I got two of the top universities in the world to join this global EdTech panel discussion with me. I would like to introduce the panelists. We have Dr. Ming Yu, Professor Yu. He is a professor of computer science from the University of Hong Kong. And I also have Tram, the co-founder from CFTE. I also have Tilak Thomas, marketing and business development from Digital Learning, Indian Institution of Management, Bangalore. And I have Dr. Umawati Ta'almurthy. I hope this is a correct pronunciation. She's a Department of Polytech and Community College Education, Minister of Higher Education in Malaysia. And obviously, I also have Daniel Shen from Soqqle EDU to join me. So before I jump into the question, I'd like to have everyone to have a quick introduction of yourself, 30 seconds each. Why don't we start with Professor Yu?
All right, thank you. Bowie, thank you, the organizer, for inviting me here. As you mentioned already, actually, I'm a professor in computer science of the University of Hong Kong. And if you're local in Hong Kong, you probably heard about the news about the Standard Charter Foundation, that they have given us a large amount of donations so that we set up the Standard Charter Foundation Hong Kong Youth Fintech Academy. And actually, I'm an associate executive director over there. Maybe I will try to share with you guys later what we are trying to do in terms of like education technology later. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Yu. Tram, would you like to have a quick introduction? I guess you touched a little bit, but all yours.
Yes, no, thanks. So I'm one of the two co-founders of CFT. We are based in the UK, but also in Singapore and Hong Kong. We've been set up 3 years ago, and we provide online education for finance professionals to upskill. So we work with our government, organizations, institutions, and individuals to provide online learning, and mainly in finance technology.
Thank you, Tram. And Tilak?
Hello, everyone. Hello to my fellow panelists and to the other attendees. So I take care of marketing for the online courses of IIM Bangalore, which is one of the top business schools in India and the world. We have about 50 massive open online courses. We are on the edX platform, which was created by MITx and HarvardX, and about 1.2 million learners have done our courses there across about 190 countries. We are also on the Government of India platform called Swayam, where about 200,000 of our learners have done our courses there. We also have our own platform called IMBX for our corporate and academic partners. Our courses have won multiple awards across various ranking agencies and so on. And yeah, I mean, I think I'm out of time, so I will share more details later. Yeah.
No problem, Tilak. I'm from Hong Kong. I was born and raised in Hong Kong. Of course, I'm proud of the University of Hong Kong, and I'm sure everybody knows about the University of Hong Kong. I don't have to mention. I think for the QR world, I think it's ranked 26. But do you know what is IMB, or the full term of Indian Institution of Management, Bangalore? So this is the actually #1 business school in India. And I think it's very well known within the country, but I think the rest of the world may not really know. Actually, the fun fact, my husband actually came from that school with, I think, apparently you have to be an Indian citizen in order to get in and study there, to my knowledge. So which I'm not qualified, but I have visited there a few times, and I love the school. And it's very funny because this school have you heard about an Indian movie called Three Idiots? It's a very inspiring regarding education system. You know how tough it is to study in India, how stressful it is. And it's a 3 hours long movie. And the reason why I brought this movie is because this movie was actually filmed at IMB. And I highly recommend anyone at any age, at any time to watch it. If you have 3 hours, it's definitely worth it. And thank you, Tilak. And Dr. Uma.
Thank you, Bowie.
Hi, I'm Dr. Uma. So I'm from the Instructional and Digital Learning Division, Department of Polytechnic and Community College Education, which is under the purview of the Ministry of Higher Education in Malaysia. So it's actually, technically, we are the center of e-learning and teaching for Malaysian polytechnics and community colleges. So yeah, I've watched the movie Three Idiots, of course, because it's from India and it's been translated into so many languages. That movie is good because it tells us that, you know, as an engineer, it's not what you need to just, you don't have to just vomit out what you have learned, but knowing the real world practices, I think that's more relevant for your teaching and learning. So that's very important in EdTech as well. So I'll talk about that later.
Thank you. Absolutely, Dr. Uma. And Daniel?
Well, I think some of you already know what I do. So I'm an ex-JP Morgan guy for more than 10 years. I came back to Singapore to launch this startup, and I'm trying to solve a global problem in education and make a huge impact to the world.
Thank you, Daniel. So my first question, I'd like to ask Tilak. We know
Yes.
IMB, but there is a platform called IIMBX. So what does IIMBX do, you know, to inspire the next generation?
Yes, Bowie. So, you know, as I mentioned, we have about 50 massive open online courses, MOOCs, across 3 platforms. The first platform that we are present on is edX, the global platform set up by MITx and HarvardX. And there we have all 50 of our courses. So IMBX is the platform where we offer our courses to our corporate and academic partners, to other organizations that would like to use our MOOCs for learning and development and for teaching. And we are also on the Government of India platform. So we've had about 1.2 million learners on edX so far, about 200,000 learners on Swayam, and of course, many thousands of learners on IMBX as well. And our courses have been done by learners in about 190 countries. One of the points that I wanted to emphasize is all our content is, many of our courses are available on the Government of India platform Swayam, where the content is available free, and it is just about 1,000 rupees in Indian currency for the certification and for the exam. So this is how we inspire the next generation, by offering the courses of one of the top B schools in India virtually for free, you know, by making access and education available for all, the best scholarship available for all. You know, we want to empower the people of India, whether they're students, whether they're executives, or whether they're professors.
Yes. That's great. It's free to Indian citizen, but not to me, right?
No, see, actually, as I mentioned, Bowie, our courses are also on the edX platform. There also, all our content is free except for the, except when you want a certificate and when you want to do the exam. All our content is free there as well. All 50 of our courses are on edX. Of course, Swayam, it makes sense to do if you're in India because there are designated examination centers. edX, you can do the exams from home because there's a proctoring tool, integrated into the platform. And of course, IMBX courses, again, can be done from anywhere in the world.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. So you no longer need to be an Indian citizen in order to study at IMB. You can do that online.
Yes, as I mentioned, Bowie, our courses have been done by learners in about 190 countries.
Yep.
Yes,
I remember. Yes, thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Bowie.
I have a question for you. So, everybody heard about the MOOC, which is the massive online, open online courses, right? So what is the view of the HKU and also the Fintech Academy? Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Can you repeat that question, Bowie?
No, the question is for Professor Yu.
Okay, sure.
Yes.
Good. But okay, let me answer first, and then Thomas supplement later.
Yes,
Sure,
sure.
absolutely.
All right. Now I think Hong Kong U basically is very supportive in providing online courses, not only for our own students, but also for the general public. I guess Bowie know a lot more as well. Actually, Hong Kong U has a special unit that help the professor if we want to make a moot course. They have a special unit so that we can ask them to help to tape the course and also, you know, do the video production, and they are professionals. And also Hong Kong, you also set aside a large amount of funding so that professors in different departments can actually apply for the funding to create a moot course. All right. And then for the Fintech Academy, in fact, but we also know about it. Actually, we provide the first Asia FinTech professional certificate for moot courses. We bundle 3 of the introduction courses. One is the introduction to FinTech, and then the other is about from the business school, talking about the ethics of FinTech. And then actually, I also make a course on blockchain. Then we bundle this course to be the first Asia FinTech professional certificate courses. And in fact, we are trying to launch 3 more courses in FinTech to form another more technical FinTech certificate. They are like, you know, we'll talk about like digital currency and, you know, what are the technologies that drive FinTech forward. And also we may talk about payment, etc. So you can look forward for it. In fact, the Academy, one of the aims of the Fintech Academy is also to provide, motivate Hong Kong people or even the general public in learning this FinTech. Okay? And in fact, most of the MOOC courses right now are aiming at the university level or the working adults. Actually, I'm doing one of the MOOC courses that I want to aim for senior high school students, so that they can, you know, learn a little bit more about FinTech earlier before they go to the university.
That's wonderful.
So, right.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Yu. Speaking about the blockchain course, I actually was honored to be invited to give a small guest lecture on blockchain. And what my topic was the evil side of the blockchain. That was part of the MOOC courses from the Hong Kong University. So I think I think the course is a very reasonable course in terms of the pricing. And it's so rich, the content is, I highly recommend everybody to try. So thank you, Professor Yu. And Dr. Umar, I have a question for you. To what extent it is important to plan for your lessons when teaching online using emerging technologies? And what tips would you like to share?
Right. Thank you, Bowie, for that question. The teaching and learning, you know, technologies are going to change. You know, they're going to keep changing. I think what's more important for lecturers is to plan their lessons. So I always, you know, as what, you know, Daniel was telling, getting students engagement is really not easy. Yesterday, we collected data from lecturers about their challenges of teaching and learning online. And the biggest challenge that lecturers are having now is to get students to be paying attention to them, to be engaged, to not come late for online classes. And that's the biggest challenge. So I think planning is very important. So when you plan your lessons, I would always divide the flow into 4 phases. First would be activation. Second would be the demonstration phase. Third would be the application phase. And the 4th phase is what I call the integration phase. So this is actually based on Merrill's first principles of instruction. So those of you who are in the EdTech, you would probably have heard of Merrill's first principles of instructions, where he feels that there's a flow of how you actually teach. So in activation, you can actually do check-ins with students. You can revise your previous lessons, and you know, you can do feedback videos and stuff like that. In demonstrations, you can show, you can do the showing part. So this can be either done digitally or non-digitally. And in application phase is where students get to apply those concepts that they have learned. So what happens usually is that's what which is given least importance or given as homework. So that's when students will struggle. But we have also this approach called the flipped classroom approach, which allows students to do the hard stuff with the presence of teachers, with the presence of lecturers. So that's another way where you get students to apply concepts with the presence of lecturers. And then finally is the integration part where students can actually apply the concepts into bigger problems. Again, most lecturers may not have the real world problems as sources. So this is where I would always suggest lecturers to get in touch with people in the industry to design real world examples that actually apply these concepts that students can be exposed to when they are still learning. Before they have left university. So just like in the Three Idiots movie, you realize that students were, the best student in the class was able to explain, was able to repeat the definition of the word machine correctly. But when he was asked whether is a pencil a machine or is a pen a machine, he wasn't able to say yes, for example. So this is the gap between students who are not able to apply what they have learned. So I highly suggest that as lecturers, or if you're using EdTech in your classrooms, remember to always plan your lessons. And there are actually tools, educational tools, which are suitable for each stage. So for example, if you're doing activation, you can actually use polling apps to just get students, just to find out what students actually have, what is the prior knowledge the students have on this area, on this content area that you're going to share. Or probably you have a newspaper cutting or a comic, something that, just gets them to start thinking about that topic that you're going to teach. And let's say you want to do the demonstration phase. So that can be maybe a pre-recorded video, available on video repositories, but more importantly is the application phase, where you actually show them the real world examples or give them problems which actually, okay, for example, for mathematics, if you're just teaching addition, instead of just 25 plus 30 is how much, what about giving a scenario about someone entering a theme park and there's a minimal height to enter into the theme park to play certain games. So you can actually ask, what's the difference between the required height and this child's height? So at least the child will be able to see the difference between, that's when they apply mathematics and they can find these, applications to real world concepts. Actually, I got this idea from a magazine in Singapore, Daniel. There's a magazine called Smart Mathematics, and it actually emphasizes using real world mathematical scenarios to teach mathematics. So I think that's what we should do, and not just
you should have told me when I was younger. You should have told me when I was younger, so maybe I would have passed my mathematics. I never heard of it.
So just like how again, so the concept is always, if we lecturers, educators, we are able to show real world connections to a certain concept, that would make the learning more meaningful to students. And using EdTech, it is possible. Yeah. So that's all I would like to share.
So thank you for sharing. I think the key also is to make it more fun. If it's so boring, I guess, that will definitely discourage anyone to learn. So my next question is for Tram. So what are the main challenges you see today in the education sector and also post-COVID-19, state of play, the role of educators in upskilling and reskilling people?
Yes, no, thanks for asking. Dr. Uma, I learn a lot. Educating children, I know it's something you do, but educating professional and getting some of your ideas, it's very valuable. And I think we can discuss more because engaging with the learners. But coming back to Bowie's question, yes, I think, today with the COVID-19 is happening, I think it's not about the why. It's about the how, and it's not about the now is urgent. I really think it's urgent, because what's happening in our industry, for example, the finance industry, is that the past few months, a lot of people has been in furlough or in lockdown. So you've seen, you know, this increasing or speed and acceleration of digital transformation happening in the banks. So some people, you know, are being left behind. And when things you accelerate, you really need to focus on the mission of what's going to be happening when people won't be able to come back to their jobs. And this is what I said, this is the most challenging part, which is today, you know, this is the huge effort about reskilling, upskilling, lifelong learning, encouraging, you know, people to think collectively about how do you actually bring education to the people that are, you know, being left behind, of course, in the finance industry, but in other industry as well. And so for us, it's always in our head, how do you bring that not only to teams of 5, 10, 100 people, you know, in a bank on the innovation side, but how do you actually educate at scale? How do you make sure that it's the whole organization who can benefit from very quickly and urgently getting the right skills and knowledge for them not to be left behind? So we think a lot about this. And as I mentioned during my presentation, is the question was like, what do we need to learn? How do we need to learn? Is it, you know, a relationship bank manager, work in compliance, anything on the someone on the bank teller? How do you actually bring everybody at the same page very quickly? And it's not for us a month or a year. It's sorry, a year. It's a month thing. So it's about this that we have been discussing over the past and we've seen this increased number of need. We work closely with governments, and for example, there are some very good, you know, of course, content-wise, it's important. So for the past few months, we've been creating a lot of contents about open banking and platform, payments, about conversational AI, all these new programs for the banks. But what I want to say is that it's an effort that we need to make sure that it has an impact on the individuals. So, you know, it's a government, organization, individuals, and it's an alignment that we need to have.
Yes. Thank you, Tram. My next question goes to Daniel. So we listen to your presentation, we understand your platform, but what have you learned so far about the student engagement?
Well, I would say that we have learned quite a lot, but we still don't know whether the solutions are the right solution, and that's kind of like the beauty of a startup. So like social learning, is it the right solution? Is it the best solution for online engagement? I would say I don't know actually, but it seems like the users and our teachers are telling me potentially yes. And that's kind of like the beauty of startups, is that we have to work very, very closely with the lecturers and professors to try and find out what is the real problems and can we actually solve those. And Bowie's husband told me before that if you are at the right place, right time, and you meet the right people and a little bit of luck, you can actually get to solve those problems. But the beauty then is if you're at the same place for a very long time, you happen to be able to meet the right people. So like Dr. Uma, I met her in a Fintech conference that was organized in the US, and and a lot of what she shared, actually I have it on a YouTube link, which I'm gonna share on the chat, and you guys can watch that 1 hour video on whatever she just mentioned just now, and I moderated her. So based on this, what we have heard is that a lot of teachers struggle with the online engagement, but also there's not a lot of tools that's being built for the teachers. There's a lot of tools being built for the students, like MOOCs, but there's not a lot of tools being built for teachers, analytics, and automation. And I asked investors about this before, and I asked why isn't there any better tools for teachers? And they always tell me, and I was told, because they can't pay. Teachers themselves can't pay, which is true. And the schools have a higher barrier of entry. So it just hasn't been a startup that has been able to cross that bridge and come up with a business model that works. So to that question, I would say that I'm still finding out the journey to online engagement, and I hope to be able to find it. And I'm lucky to meet really passionate lecturers and professors to go along with me on the journey. And we have thousands of students now on our platform, and we're quite lucky to be there.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Bowie, may I just add to the last point?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was teaching for 9 years. Before I moved into a marketing role at IIM Bangalore. One of the things I must say that IIM Bangalore has done, that IIM BX has done, is that we have organized an online FDP for professors. We organized an online faculty development program. We had financial support from the Wipro Foundation. We also had case studies and simulations which were given to us by MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and we were able to offer this FDP, this faculty development program for professors, in a subject called Strategy and the Sustainable Enterprise, virtually for free.
That's great.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, so there was a MOOC element to it, but there were a lot of other elements as well, such as case studies, simulations, and so on.
Yes, that's good to know. If you have more information, feel free to put in the chat so for everybody to review that. Yes. So Professor Yu, my next question goes to you. Any innovative ideas to make the massive open online courses more attractive and also can make more learners easy to learn?
Right. Now, actually, a lot of speakers like Daniel, Dr. Yuma, they all talk about the issues already. I guess it's not easy to attract students to attend the online lecture. I can give you a funny example. You know that more and more people are watching Netflix, right? Yep. And also more and more people are playing video games, right? But then according to according to some of my colleagues, when we offer like the Zoom lectures, right, fewer and fewer students want to attend it. Even they attend it, just like Daniel said, we don't even know whether they are actually there, okay, whether they are engaged in the course. So I guess one way to improve the moot course, in fact, I'm also getting support from the Fintech Academy. I think you all know this concept. We want to make the moot courses more interactive. In fact, I am trying to design a new moot course by using the concept of gamification. Probably all of you know about it, right? Because it's not a new concept, but then I don't think a lot of courses are using it because you need to spend a lot of effort in order to convert the teaching material into like a game-like activity so that, students can be engaged, interactive on it. But one issue I'm facing right now, I guess most of the attendants and the panelists also know about it. Not all the platforms are able to provide, technically feasible for this kind of gamification to be incorporated into an online course. In fact, I'm working with some of the platforms to see whether we can make it feasible so that at least we can put some, gaming there so that, students can be attracted by the gaming. They just play the game and then they learn along the playing. So this is one of the interesting features that we are going to implement into one of the moot courses. Right. Yes,
absolutely. That reminds me of one of the applications suggested by the school for my son. My son is 8 years old. I forgot the name of the game. So basically, it's like a Pokemon. You have to do battle, but in order to battle with the monster, you have to answer one mathematical question. And you get it right, then you can increase your power in order to, use the weapon to fight with the monster. So my son was very addicted to that game, and he plays so much and he actually doesn't know that it's actually helping him with the mathematics instead of playing the game. But that's the beauty of it. I think learning while playing is very important to me and to everybody. So thank you, Professor Yu.
Yeah, Bowie, may I just add a quick point?
Yeah.
Just wanted to add to the point that Dr. Sue made. We have actually begun to incorporate a lot of gamification elements into our courses on the edX platform. We sometimes integrate them as LTIs, as integrations, plugins to our, the main platform. And one more quick point, which I wanted to make was Dr. Sue mentioned about innovation, about Netflix. In fact, today INSEAD on their app has posted an article called Netflix innovating at the edge of chaos. Netflix innovating at the edge of chaos should be an interesting read.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. Thank you very much. It's very good.
No,
yes.
Yes, Bowie, what I would love to add is, as I agree with Dr. Sue, it's very important to integrate and to make sure that we have higher engagement, just to make sure how, difficult it is to create MOOCs and with low completion rate. So we spend a lot of time at CFT look at it. But from another perspective, and we know the effect, you can really jump to 10 times better if you really engage with the learner. And there are different ways, creating a lot of different tools, teaching assistant, forum, webinars, events, etc. But what I want to say is, what is different today is how do you make sure that you understand from the learner's point of view? Why should he took the MOOC? Why should he took the course? How does it really help him in his job today? How does it apply very quickly to his job? Understand the industry that he's in to really help him to learn and to apply very quickly. And how do you actually structure his learning, personalize it to his daily life? And this is something that is very at the next level now, where you want to make sure that you encourage the learner through his daily life to make sure that he can complete to in the end. And this is something that we've seen a lot.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tram. So question for you, Dr. Uma. What are the suggested tools and application to increase students' engagement? Dr. Yu already mentioned all the challenges. They wonder if the students are actually there, like spiritually and physically are really there. So how do you, increase the engagement for the online lessons?
So of course, Soqqle is very new and is being tested by my colleagues. But I previously, before using Soqqle, I used a lot of Mentimeter. Have you heard of Mentimeter? Yeah,
Yes.
Mentimeter, poll everywhere. Also Edpuzzle. Have you heard of Edpuzzle? So Edpuzzle is an app that allows us to actually embed questions into your video. So it can be a video that you have created by yourself, and you can upload it to Edpuzzle's the site, or it can be a video from any existing video repository such as YouTube or Vimeo. But the beauty is you're able to embed notes, audio clips, and text and questions, multiple choice and open-ended questions into the video. So this is to ensure that the students can actually they have really watch the video and not just it's like it allows them to do this instant recall, also to test their knowledge retention, because sometimes lecturers tend to put very long videos. Even sometimes, actually, the attention span of a student now is probably just 8 seconds maybe, because there's so much of distraction around them. Also, we have another issue where in online learning, most of them are using their smartphones. So when they're using smartphones, there's these notifications of their social media, so then they get distracted. So again, in Malaysia, there's more smartphone penetration compared to laptop penetration. And this is from my findings from the recent study I conducted. So that's also an issue. But again, for videos, because here videos, it's just so common. So I would suggest the use of Edpuzzle to embed questions into videos. Besides that, I also encourage a lot of content creation. So let students themselves, come up with something, generate something. So, we also use a lot of Google Suite. I don't know if it's okay for me to highlight brands here, but this is what we are using in the Malaysian context. A lot of G Suite. So we have the Jamboard, the interactive whiteboard. So I have many lecturers who have started using, pen tablets, especially those who are teaching engineering mathematics, because yeah, so it enables them to actually write easily. So they have been investing on that. Also, Flipgrid, we use a lot of Flipgrid and VoiceThread. I also encourage students to actually reflect. So using just their smartphone, whatever audio app they have on their smartphone. So these are some of the apps that I encourage lecturers to use. Again, I always tell lecturers that these tools are just a tool, but you will need to know how to embed it correctly.
Absolutely.
And that should be the priority, because new tools are going to come up, but how do you use the tool purposefully, and that's more important.
Yeah, the purpose is the key. Definitely. Thank you. Question for you, Tilak.
Yes.
What does IMB offer to corporate and also the academic learners?
Yes. So what we offer to corporates is we offer our MOOCs, massive open online courses, to our corporate learners, for their learning and development. So their HR managers, their HR heads, their learning and development heads, they use our MOOCs for the learning and development of their employees, of their executives. We also bundle live webinars by the professors of those courses along with the MOOCs. And we will provide them grade reports on a weekly basis. We provide them webinars, and then of course we conduct a final exam, post which we give them their digital certificates and so on. Earlier in the program, the point about completion rates came up. So when we deliver a MOOC to our corporate partner through this mode, through the corporate partnership mode, the completion rate is almost 100%, as opposed to when they do it through a B2C platform. And of course, to our academic learners, we get students from institutions across India to do our online courses for credits. Because especially during these COVID-19 and lockdown times, that has proved to be immensely useful to our students and to our professors. So we also have tie-ups with other institutions at the institutional level to offer our courses to the institutions, both to the institution's professors and to the students. Of course, professors and students can also sign up for our courses at an individual level.
That's great, Tilak. Thank you.
Yes.
Can
I interrupt?
Yeah, go
there's
ahead.
a question here from Troy, and Troy is asking, what are the thoughts from the panel about the impact of AR and VR on EduTech? So I would like to share because see, I'm from the Center of Teaching and Learning for Malaysian Polytechnics and Community Colleges, and we are using, we have started using AR and VR in our teaching and learning, especially because we feel that VR allows for the ultimate field trip. Have you heard of Video 360? So Video 360 allows us to create a 360 video of an environment. So for example, we use it a lot for tourism courses. So have you heard of Sipadan Islands? So Sipadan Islands is in Borneo, and we have students at community colleges taking a subject called coral habitats. They need to go underwater and learn about the organisms that live, the species that lives underwater. So students can only go there only once in a semester, and it's not cheap, it's expensive. There are students who are, can't afford that trip. There are also students who they not have the water confidence yet, or some of them just get dizzy just, being on water. So what happened was we created this Video 360 of, an underground, what happens underwater, and we got students to watch it a few times until they were very, until they were comfortable. And one more thing is the fish that they would see on screen, on a digital material might look different when you're underwater. But in a VR, in a Video 360, that's how the fish looks like, underwater. So they got the real experience. So we tend to use Video 360 for that. We also have, for example, a field trip like, let's say, the BMW service center. So it's not easy for lecturers to get an appointment to visit the BMW service center because certain things are private, and it's not convenient for them to have different batch of students every couple of months to come. So what we did was to create a 360 video of an interactive 360 video of the whole BMW service center. And this was used for automotive students to see how, so we have, it's an interactive video means using a VR headset, students can actually click and learn, touch the materials and stuff. And for students who do not have the headset, the videos are also available on YouTube. So it's not interactive, but you can still see the 360 of an automotive service center. So there are a few other examples. I've given the link here. Yeah, Dr. Uma's brain is filled with EduTech tools. Yeah,
I guess
yeah, I am the,
all the
yeah,
samples.
I have a lot of examples. Yeah.
Yeah.
So also warehouse operation. So we went to the largest warehouse in Malaysia, and also because we have good industrial ties with companies. And they gave us a 360-degree tour of their place, and we put that into, it was a learning material for the logistics and supply chain management costs. So this has really, it's very cost saving for us. So we do not have to bring students every time, so let's say you're located, in Kuantan, and you do not have to, take another road trip to, and with the pandemic, it's actually even more relevant right now. We do not want to travel and meet people. So this can be done online. So to the question just now, it is costly, but in the long term, it's actually cost saving. It's safer. It's a safer environment to do a lot of things. And we are working on developing more video 360 contents because students really like it. And we are also glad that instructors are trying to use it for their teaching and learning. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Uma. I do see questions. Yes, everybody are welcome to, you're welcome to put questions there, but I saved the Q&A at the end. So let me finish my questions first. So Tram, I have a question for you. What is your inspiration to really, provide the education and financial services? There's so much you can teach, but why particularly in the financial services sector?
I think the industry is transforming very, very fast. I mentioned in my presentation, there's a huge amount of things you can learn about because the finance is totally transforming. I was mentioning earlier on about, technology having a huge impact on any jobs in finance. And so today, people can't quit their job. They need to start their journey learning. And for us, it's imperative. Otherwise, some people will be left behind, or jobs are transforming very, very quickly. So how do you actually make that as an imperative to upskill very quickly the financial industry? But coming back it's not about the why, but the how. How do we do this, in the finance industry? And it's using a lot of different tools that we are available. And Dr. Uma and everyone shared a lot of the tools available today to bring education to our industry. And it's about, we talked about artificial intelligence, we talked about VR. My main thing and my main concern is how do you make sure that you have you understand your audience, you understand the context, and that we have an impact on what we do. And we tried a lot of different things educating finance professional is not that simple because it's not something they used to do. I used to be in finance, and the only thing I learned for the past 16 years in finance, because I was, in large organization, was a tick the box exercise, compliance exercise at the end of the year, just making sure my boss was happy. But today, how do you make sure that people can learn something that has value to them? And a very simple thing that can be implemented, I think, to any industry to have a great impact in education is perhaps to create cohorts and to have deadlines. That's the only thing that matters. If you create cohort of people learning together, share together, but then with a start and the end, 3 months, we do 3 months at CFTE, it works very well. Because the employee to his boss, he said, I completed, and they would have learned something that can create value. But you create, even online, but you create some boundaries to keep that framework of learning.
I agree. I do recall taking an entrepreneurship course from CFTE, and the case study was the digital bank. along with Troy Roberts, who just raised the question. We were in the same team working on a solution, a possible solution for NEET Bank, which is a challenger bank. So it was a very fun journey, and I learned a lot. So thank you. Someone make a comment?
Bowie, I just want to quickly add to what Tram said. I completely agree with the point she made about both cohorts and deadlines, because when we offer our courses to corporates, for learning and development, or to other academic institutions, we create closed cohorts of their learners. And there are deadlines on, by when they need to finish these courses. And as she rightly pointed out, the completion rates are much higher. For us, the completion rates for both, academic learners and corporate learners, when we have tie-ups with their organizations directly, has been almost 100%, as opposed to when they sign up as individuals.
Yes.
Sure. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Tilak. So question for you, Daniel. Can social really be the answer?
Well, I was kind of talking about it just now as well. It's quite hard because I felt that there was a need for social learning, because we have a Facebook, we have a LinkedIn, but there isn't anything in between. And I felt that that application that's in between will be something that schools will want, because you can help students to discover their dreams, their goals, and move towards a direction that will interest them. And if you can interest the students, then hopefully that solves engagement problems. But it's hard because as we try out with the schools and teachers, it's quite hard, because when we first tried to sell this idea, for example, in Lingnan University, there was this, hey, you put them together in a social looking like app, and then you create posts, the teacher creates a post and asks for feedback, questions, but then no one responds. And then we realized that, hey, it's a bit naive to kind of expect that students will just willingly, openly create content and just share them with each other, but it will never be as engaging as a cat video, right? On Facebook, for example. But what we learned there was interesting, because the teacher came up with new ideas, and this was kind of part of the gamification thing that I think a lot of us here were quite excited about just now, was that a lot of the game-based learning and gamification ideas are kind of trash, completely trash today, that teachers are doing in schools. Is usually one-off. Like you have one-off games that you do in a classroom, and then you're not going to repeat the same game every week. It's just going to be some quiz with music and some funny thing that you can do, and then end of story. So what the teachers are doing on my app is they create a natural game of buyers and sellers. So he splits the class into buyers and sellers, and then it's a natural game whereby the sellers are selling content to the buyers in a natural private environment, and then the buyers will vote using likes and ask questions as descriptions. And then the teacher will go, okay, hey, 5 stars means $50,000. And then at the end of the semester, how much did you earn? And then it's kind of a natural game, and the students want to try and get the highest points. We're doing this in Dr. Uma's class as well in the colleges, where we're trying to say who has won the most interviews over a period of 3 months. Like if you win an interview based on the most number of likes, then if you get the most number of likes, you won an interview and you won a job. So we can say, hey, you won 10 jobs over a period of 3 months, and then you are on top of the class. So we can create those kind of games, and we apply that in every in different modules as well. So we're trying that in geography, we're trying that in real estate, property, where we want to kind of go, hey, you can even sell property on the app. It's quite funny. We have geography, which is the government wants to build a power plant. Where can we build it? We also have consultants on the app, whereby the students act as consultants and they sell contracts to the buyers who are also students. So those are some of the things that we learn as we work with the lecturers, and they come up with solutions that I never even thought of. And that's kind of where I think the beauty is, and hopefully that works out well.
Sure. Thank you, Daniel. To me, I always have lots of respect for teachers, professors in cover from kindergarten all the way to universities, because I always find it's very difficult to teach, and especially for some complicated stuff. So question for you, Professor Yu. I know that you are, a professor of computer science, and you're also expert of cryptography. So cryptography to me is like, oh my God, it's a very, very difficult topic. And I was told by looking at your profile that you have the talent and the ability to simplify things. So how do you like my question, how are you able to, you know, really simplify such a complicated topic or content, and also engage with the students so that they first understand what you're talking about, they actually are learning, and how do you measure, you know, the success? So can you share a little bit of your views on it?
Yes, yes. Actually, to answer this question, I want to echo Tram's statements. In fact, when we teach, I guess you need to think from the student's point of view. I guess most of the teachers, when they get older, like me, okay, they teach too often. Then they might forget, you know, when they were young, you know, what kind of stuff they don't understand. I guess that's the key point. So, so if you look at some of the colleagues, okay, when they teach, you look at their material, it seems like every year they add in more material, make it more difficult, including the examinations. So I guess I think this is the first point that I usually, when I start to plan my teaching, I usually think about what the student, they, you know, what are their background, you know, what they don't understand first, okay? And then we try to simplify the in fact, okay, if you want to teach a complicated theory, if you think about it, we can actually simplify it into a, you know, maybe 3 or 4 stages, so that students can get the simplified form first before they get into the most difficult complex form. Okay, and then actually I like Daniel's comment on how to incorporate the game into the teaching. I think he's in the right direction. Because we might not want to just, you know, create a game and then, you know, ask them to do something, but it may not be totally related to the material. In fact, you know, I guess you all may agree, for face-to-face teaching, I think it's easier to catch the students' attention because we can do it interactively. Like in my class, I ask questions a lot, so that students, they need to pay attention. Otherwise, I just call them up. Okay, but then on my application, it seems like it's not as easy as before, because even they turn on the video, you know, you ask them, they did not answer, and then later on when they come back, they say, "Oh, technical problem." You see my point?
It's a good experience.
Actually pay attention to it.
They can blame it off the connectivity.
Yeah, they always say that, you know, even in our examination, you know, we have a requirement to ask a student to turn on the video when they work on the exam paper. But then, you know, some students turn it off. Just tell us, you know, oh, it's technical problem. It's not my fault. Then what can you do?
Yeah, that could be tough to manage some naughty students.
Right. So I guess the expert here actually gave me also a lot of insights. I think that there are a lot of software applications that we can use. But the point is like what Tram said, you know, how we can pick the right one, and then how much effort we need to spend in order to make an effective lecture, online lecture. I think that's very important. Thank you.
Sure, thank you, Professor Yu. So Tram, so speaking about the EdTech, right? So, you know, today teaching in class is not the same as teaching online. So we all understand because we've been experiencing it, right? So how EdTech has been a good way to, you know, really engage with the professional learners?
Yes, no, thanks for asking, Bowie. I think you asked me a question earlier on, why finance industry? Of course, you know, I could have chosen, you know, another industry, but to tell you, you know, I'm from the finance industry, so I understand it very well. My co-founder, we are from finance industry. We could have been in other industry, but we chose finance is because it's really transforming. And today what we are trying to do is to create massive impact for people, you know, to create themselves opportunities from the younger generation, but people, professionals as well, for them to be perhaps entrepreneurs of tomorrow, because the fintech industry is growing, finance is changing, and we'd love to create, you know, a lot of people to benefit from this opportunity, but you need to start by educating yourself. To come back to your question, teaching online is very different from teaching in class. I mean, we spent a lot of time looking first for industry experts. It's not easy to find industry experts who have been teaching. Some, have been teaching or speaking at conferences. Teaching online is another totally, task, and you need to find the best person. So we spend a lot of time, just to give you an idea, is that teaching in class in front of 50, 100, people is easy. Teaching in online, you need to make sure that everything is scripted. You need to make sure that people, and especially those professors or the experts, we spend a lot of time with the experts who, it's easy to teach in front of an audience because you can capture, if they get it, if they have questions. But online learning, it's like acting. You need to make sure that when you speak in front of a camera, you can engage with thousands and millions of people. So really need to make sure you speak to your audience. So we spend a lot of time to train, our experts on this. And that's why we have, it's very challenging, very, very challenging. We spend thousands of hours on this. That's the thing. I have to say something that perhaps, it's something that has not been addressed, but we spend a lot of time also when you say, online learning or teaching, is to look at the diversity of the people we talk to. If you want to connect with your audience, understand that this audience is very global. You cannot have an expert just specialized in one particular country or in particular subject. What we're trying to do as CFT is very much to have a global view. So when we teach online, we make sure that all our experts can have different type of different background, gender, of course, women and men, because it's actually after that you need to actually talk to your consumer and your clients. So making sure that the diversity of the people are very important when you select your expert, when you do online teaching, because you want to have a global reach. So at CFT, for example, just on the Artificial Intelligence in Finance program, we spent 7,000 hours and we did a due diligence of over 241 experts across the world. And it was not simple to find. And just a last thing, it's very difficult for us to find women who can teach, experts. And, I have to address that. So we are trying to find a way to change. And women teaching experts are hiding. So we spend a lot of time to try to find. So if it's something that we want to change at CFT, to give a voice to everyone.
That's great. I'm a big fan of women in entrepreneurship, women in tech. I guess, yes, I think we need more women to step out and to share their knowledge. So totally agree with you, Tram. Thank you.
Like Bowie, right? Like Bowie.
Like Bowie.
I know one Bowie.
Well, you know what I like doing this kind of educational talks. What happened is I have the privilege and the honor to speak with all the seasoned speakers, and I can learn from them. So I think this is like a big bonus to me. So Dr. Umar, I know you're based in Malaysia, and I visit there quite often. And I only go there for tourism only. So I don't really know about the EdTech space in Malaysia. Can you tell us a little bit more about the EdTech space in your region?
Before I say about that, yesterday I got this book for my daughter. It's called Girls Who Code.
Cool.
Girls Who Code. Yeah. So there's this book that says, so this book is dedicated to all the girls who code and to the girls who will one day. Yeah, so I was telling Daniel, he asked me if I was a cool mom. I said, yes, I am, because I teach my daughter to code. Yeah. Okay, all right, back to your question about the EdTech space in Malaysia. Okay, so the Malaysian education system, so I'm with the Ministry of Higher Education and not with the Ministry of Education. So the Ministry of Education caters for kindergarten to secondary school. That means up to 18 years old. So I'm with the after 18 level. But For the below 18 level, the Malaysian government has actually come up with this system called Delima. Actually, and it became more useful during the pandemic. So the Delima education system, the Delima system actually is a collaboration between MOE and Apple and Google and Microsoft. So they are using these, applications provided by these companies to train teachers to use technology in, in the classroom. So of course, and just like you, Bowie, I have a 8-year-old daughter as well. I'm glad that only some of the teachers are actually using technology, and you can see in a kid that because they are born with technology, they really enjoy classes where the teacher actually takes the effort to create videos and show videos, or show them how electric circuit works in a science class. So that's what's happening in the primary school level. And it's also happening in the secondary school level. So the training is still ongoing. Teachers are still being trained how to use Google Classroom more efficiently, how to create your own videos, how to gamify your classroom using, the free apps available. In the higher education sector, so I would start with my department, with polytechnics and community colleges. So online training is going on. We have our MOOCs. We are training lecturers, to embrace new technology. So when I graduated a couple of years ago, so my task was actually to train lecturers how to use the flipped classroom approach, how to use real world problems in your classroom, how do you organize your lessons. And 2 years ago, this idea didn't appeal to many people because, to many lecturers, because they still had face-to-face classes. But those lecturers who attended my course, during the pandemic, then they said, oh my God, that knowledge was so useful, because now they knew how to teach online, because the flipped classroom approach allows certain portions of your lessons to be shifted online before class, and the during class thing is done face to face. So sometimes we do not know how useful that knowledge is when we actually put in a situation like this. So in polytechnics and community colleges, as I mentioned, the use of AR, for example, is used a lot in final year projects. For example, in architecture program, before this, students only showed a 2D drawing of their architectural plans. Currently, what's happening is when they present a poster, a flat poster, there's a QR code which actually links it to a 3D model of the building that they have built. So, for example, it's a house. So the lecturer now can actually see, how big is the house, and stuff like that, and how strong is the house. Let's say they add in more tons of things, what happens, how does it affect and all. So there are lecturers who are doing this because we send lecturers for training for AR and VR. So many of them have started using it. In terms of the other technologies like AI and Internet of Things, the polytechnics and community colleges, we have actually chosen 10 institutions to start embarking on how are you going to use AI and IoT in the environment itself, because we believe that if there's, when are we going to jump into that bandwagon if we are not using the technology ourselves? So that's in the next 5 years of plan. So it's still a planning stage. We still have a lot more to be done in terms of
Thank you, Dr.
Yeah.
I am mindful of the time, and we unfortunately I still have a list of questions that I wanted to ask all the panelists, but I unfortunately running out of time. And I do see some couple questions in the Q&A, and thanks Tilak for answering it. So I'm not going to read those questions. So for around EdTech, inspiring the next generation, I would like to ask each panelist to give a final word or comment around the topic, or anything you would like to share. Can I start with Professor Yu? 20 seconds. Yeah.
Yes, second. Okay, thank you. Basically, I think there's still a lot of work to do in order to attract the people to attend online lecture and make the online lecture as fun as a face-to-face class. So I think there are 3 aspects we need to work on it. First one is what the other speakers talk a lot about, the technology. okay, we need to try to improve more technology aspect so that we can incorporate our teaching material, our game or whatever easily into this online lecture. The second one is the mindset of the teachers and also the students, okay, because I think they are not get used to online teaching right now, so that's why they get bored. And even the teachers, they may not know how to prepare with online lecture in order to attract the students, to engage the students, okay. And then finally is from the student, maybe we need more tools like what Daniel said, how to do some more statistics on how how the student can be engaged into this kind of online lectures. Thank you.
Sure, thank you, Professor Yu. Tram?
I think no, I think for us the priority is that there's an urgency of reskilling and upskilling. There's hundreds and millions of people out there who might lose their job, and it's imperative that we focus on this. And I think it's a call. We need to collectively work on how we can make it happen. We know enough. I mean, all of us, we can share and work together on this. And this is one of the most critical challenges of our time. So let's work together. And I invite you to join.
Thank you, Tram. Tilak, may I have your final word? Yeah.
Yes, Bowie. I mean, just wanted to re-emphasize again about our courses on edX, which have been done by learners from over 190 countries. We are very actively engaged with the Government of India in providing courses to professors, individuals, and corporates on our Government of India platform called Swayam. We also have our own platform called IMBX. We are all the time incorporating the latest instructional design elements, social engagement. We're all the time integrating social engagement tools like Soqqle into our platform, and all the time experimenting with pedagogies. In fact, Dr. Uma mentioned Mentimeter, that also has been used on the IMB campus. We have we are working very closely with the Government of India as well to make all these management and business courses available through Swayam all over the country. And we also in India we have a platform called NPTEL for all the engineering courses, and of course our courses are on the global platform called edX. IMBX is engaged at multiple levels globally, within India, on government platforms, on edX, and so on. So if any of you would like to reach out to us for opportunities for collaboration and so on, please do reach out.
Yeah, speaking about the reach out, I forgot to share this page. So this is the page to basically scan it, and majority of them get into the LinkedIn profile to keep in touch with all the speakers, including myself. So please go ahead and scan while we are giving a final word. So Dr. Uma, your turn, please, 20 seconds.
All right, I have 4 points. First, if only we could engage our students, they would actually thrive in the environment. Secondly, get students to actually not only watch, but interact with their own learning rather than just listening passively. So that's when the use of tools and our creativity comes in. Third, being an educator, you have to always upskill and reskill yourself. You need to be a lifelong learner. Another thing, Prof. Yu, planning your lessons, like what happens. It's different from a face-to-face class. We can't, in a face-to-face class, we can just just start. But on an online class, we can't just wing it. It just won't work. So you have to plan your lessons. And finally, I think there's just so much more to be done. And this pandemic has taught us a lot of lessons. So yeah, we should take it positively and try to make the best out of this situation. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you. Daniel, your turn.
Hi. While trying to build a really challenging, tough educational technology, it's very important for me to meet passionate people, lecturers, educators who don't mind failing. And the people who don't mind failing, who might even look forward to failing, are probably people who like to research, who are likely to be like professors. So if any of you love to participate in at least research in trying to measure motivation and join us in the journey, which includes Dr. Uma in Malaysia as well, Hong Kong, Indonesia, and we're talking to NTU about the neuroscience project as well of measuring the EEGs and the eye tracking, measuring engagement. And I'm actually interested in the CET side, continuing education side. Can I measure between the same MOOC being conducted for adults versus students? Is there a difference between engagement? I think that's quite interesting to measure, and I think all schools will love that. So just a shout out, and anyone who's interested, just feel free to reach out to me. Thanks.
Yeah, so here's the contact information. So feel free to scan the code. You can get to the LinkedIn and stay in touch with all of us. And so for me, I think I've been saying a lot to all my educational talks. I think lots of knowledge free. So you can easily Google and get a lot of question answers. So once you have your knowledge, just keep learning. I think this is important because knowledge has no border or limit. There's so much knowledge I think you can learn until the day you leave the world. And once you have knowledge, you can actually turn into skill set, and ultimately skill set definitely will bring you something valuable. So thank you so much for joining us today. And this is my next event, which is next week. I'm also in the family officer space, so I am very happy to co-organize with a local law firm called Hand of the Red, along with Invest Hong Kong, about Into the Dragon Lair, Hong Kong as a hub for family and private wealth. And if you would like to get into more information about this event, so feel free to scan this QR code. You can join the MaGESpire group, and you will stay tuned for all the future events as well. So once again, thank you so much, everyone, Professor Yu, Tram, Dr. Uma, Tilak, and also Daniel for joining us. Learn a lot from everybody. So thank you all. And that's all what we have today. And Tram, do we have a breakout room for all the speakers so we can have a quick, debrief?
Yes.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody else.
Yeah, thank you. I think we can stop recording this session as well.